Musicals often suffer from the stigma that it is a form of entertainment made purely for escapism, exploring whimsical and often fantastical narratives through the art of song and dance. There have been many studies and articles seeking to contest this stigma to various degrees of success. Some found that many musicals have managed to effectively portray political discourse, while others found that political narratives in musicals are often overshadowed by more palatable cliches. I became interested in examining such a discourse in a relatively new original Broadway musical that transforms an existing traditional tale into a deeper discussion about class politics. That is why in this video, I will be talking about Hadestown, the musical written by Anaïs Mitchell, which first debuted on Broadway in 2019. In analyzing this musical, I am using the textual analysis method in the form of a close reading, focusing on the literary elements found in the lyrics of the musical numbers. Reflecting on Marxist theories, I attempt to unearth the musical stance and critique on capitalism through its portrayal of working class struggles in the form of alienation and exploitation of the working class, as well as class consciousness and class revolution. Hadestown built itself upon traditional Greek myths, particularly the story of Orpheus and Eurydice. In the original myth, our two protagonists fall in love with each other and would have lived happily ever after, if not for the fateful incident when Eurydice is fatally bitten by a venomous snake and whisked away to the underworld, a place ruled by the god of the dead, Hades, where all dead souls are cursed to wander for eternity. Hadestown, however, creates a twist where the underworld is instead transformed into a sort of mining factory, with Hades taking the role of its capitalist employer and the quote-unquote dead souls representing the workers he employs. Subsequently, the cause for Eurydice leaving for Hadestown isn't a simple accidental death, but rather her signing an eternally binding working contract with Hades after struggling in poverty back in the surface world. It is within the location of Hadestown that we see the musical's portrayals of working class struggles come to play. Hermes describes Hadestown as such.
Follow that dollar for a long way down, far away from the poorhouse door. You either get to hell or to Hadestown. Ain't no difference anymore. Way down, Hadestown, way down under the ground.
From the beginning, having Hermes draw a parallel between Hadestown and the figurative hell where souls are cursed to suffer an endless pain already clues us in on the unsavory working conditions within Hades' workplace. Furthermore, upon Eurydice's arrival, she expresses concern over how the workers seem to lack much individuality in their movements and their words. They seem to display what Marxist theory of alienation describes as the estrangement of man from the life of his species, which posits that the alienated worker is made to perform their labor under limited ambitions, unable to regard themselves as truly free creative beings. This is particularly emphasized in Why We Built the Wall, where the workers robotically repeat the doctrine spread by their employer Hades. The values and ideals pushed forward by Hades were that the workers had to work for the sake of work, all the while also promoting isolationism by cultivating a vague us versus them mentality against the surface world. Other than showing how the workers have been alienated from the labor they perform, the musical number also reflects Hades' real intention in preaching this creed to his workers, that is, to indefinitely exploit their labor by trapping them in an endless cycle of struggle against an enemy that cannot ever be truly beaten. This culminates in the second act of the musical, which touches upon the liberation of the workers. Following the original myth, Orpheus sneaks into Hadestown in order to bring Eurydice back to the surface world. His arrival causes a ruckus within Hadestown, particularly after he sings about the injustice of Hadestown's system and if it's true. Orpheus's opinions begin to influence the workers, causing them to become more aware of the labor exploitation they suffer, shown for example in the changes to their lyrical patterns in the reprisal of their musical number Chant.
Keep your head low. Oh, you gotta keep your head low. If you wanna keep your head low. Oh, you gotta. Why do we turn away when our brother is bleeding? Oh, keep your head. Why do we build a wall and then call it freedom? Oh, keep your head. If we're free, tell me why I can't look in my brother's eye. Keep your head.
In this case, the musical repurposes Orpheus to become the mouthpiece of working class liberation, reflecting the Marxist notion of class consciousness as developed by Lukács, that class consciousness is reached when the lower class becomes aware that the hegemonic structure they live in is something that has been formed through a historical and social process, as opposed to something that is part of the laws of nature. Additionally, the musical stayed true to the original myth by having Orpheus fail to save Eurydice, and consequently the denizens of Hadestown. The absence of happy ending may insinuate that the musical is saying that a class-based revolution is not something that is realistically feasible. However, Hadestown makes it clear that Orpheus's failure occurs due to one particular reason, that his success was to be the sole deciding point, and that he was the one true agent upon which his, Eurydice's, and the workers' activisms hinged. While this show critiques capitalism by portraying the malpractices that the lower class experience within it, it also delivers a certain message about class revolution. That is, that it may only work if there is a collective effort by the revolutionizing class, as opposed to hinging that hope on a select few. Through the depiction of the workers of Hadestown, we've seen how capitalism can cause the working class to experience alienation, becoming estranged from the product of their labor, each other, and themselves. We've also seen how, in such a situation where the working class is exploited, class consciousness and revolution may arise. The show has also implemented the myth's tragic ending of Orpheus failing to rescue Eurydice in order to make a point about how the working class revolution requires a collective organization rather than depending on individual heroes. Ultimately, Hadestown has managed to uniquely shed light on how power can be sustained and subverted in a capitalist society by transforming a traditional Greek romance tragedy into a story that explores the working class struggles and its attempt at liberation.